If you have not been following me, this is the time for you to do that now, because I bring some really exciting business cases of some of Africa's brightest entrepreneurs and their businesses and how they're approaching solving some of the challenges and problems. But I also give insights about what is happening in the African tech ecosystem. So, welcome. Today, I'm diving into the inspiring journey of Twiga Foods, a company that is revolutionizing Africa's agricultural supply chain. This is the second startup I'm actually doing with regards to the agricultural supply chain in the continent. So whether you're a startup or a founder or an investor or someone who is passionate about agriculture in Africa, this is specifically for you. But you want to also take on Omni Retail, another fantastic African startups that is operating in the agricultural supply chain. Let's dive in. But before I do so, share this video. I'd like to hear from you, all your comments, and I'd like to just have an insight of how you're thinking about the continent. And if you have any companies that you want me to look into, let me know and I'm happy to jump in. So now let's go. So historically, Africa's agricultural landscape has been riddled with challenges. So smallholder farmers have long struggled with fragmented supply chains, where multiple intermediaries squeeze out their profits. So of course, we have the problems of insufficient storage or inefficient storage and poor transportation. And these have caused very high post-harvest losses, and price volatility is the norm in many informal markets. Add to that, there is of course the issue around limited access to modern technology, and you have a system that leaves millions of farmers with unstable income and urban consumer with inconsistent quality and prices. But it's also important to note that a lot of countries like mine are investing a lot of money into changing the agricultural landscape of the continent as a whole. So in Sierra Leone, for example, the fantastic thought about Feed Sierra Leone and the millions of dollars being invested into it, it's all indication of a collective effort in building the supply chain or strengthening the agricultural value chain in the continent. But let's talk about Twiga Foods. So think about it. If you were a farmer or a vendor, you wouldn't really want a system that does not only offers fair return, but also ensure that your produce reaches the market. Would you? I think you would. So this historical context set the stage for an innovative solution. And that's where Twiga Food comes in. Now let's take a moment to actually think about some of the problems that the continent has, especially in feeding its population. With a vast land and some of the most fertile land in the world, why is it that we are still struggling to feed a nation or the nations in the continent? That's a thought for you. But let's look at what Twiga Food does. So this company, by the way, was founded by two really amazing people who, like yourself watching this video, understand some of the problems and the challenges within the agricultural value chain in your country or across the continent, and they decided to jump in. So Twiga Food was founded in 2014 by Peter Njonjo and Grant Brooke. So Peter, which is traditional or untraditional rather, Peter brings to the table over 21 years of experience from the Coca-Cola company, where he mastered supply chain management and market expansion in West Africa. On the other hand, Grant has a PhD from Oxford University, specializing in understanding the dynamics of informal markets and trade network across Africa. So think about these two people, brilliant minds, coming together to actually solve the continent's dire problem rather. So together, they saw an opportunity by eliminating the many middlemen completely and building the solution that directly connects farmers with urban retailers. Their vision was very clear: build a technology platform that offers transparency, efficiency, fair pricing for all parties involved. Again, this is quite similar to other startups that we've seen and other players in the market. Like I mentioned earlier on, I have done another business case on a startup that is actually operating in this space. You probably want to go back in video and then try to reflect, or maybe just cross check between Twiga and Omni Retail. So imagine that these two founders, going back to them, they combine decades of corporate experience with academic insight. This is the kind of multidisciplinary approach that fuels innovation. It is a powerful reminder that the right mix of expertise can tackle even the most entrenched challenges. But it's also an important lesson here. Founding any company doesn't only take the technical skills, but it also comes with the more bureaucratic thoughts or approach to developing and building. One of my mentors will actually say, to actually build systems that can go at scale, he will always advise a founder to have worked within a structured organization, because that allows them to be able to have some sort of an understanding or a guide rail. Now, this is not the standard. Of course, founders can come from anywhere, but it doesn't hurt at all. In fact, it helps you handle maturity of growth, right? So at its core, Twiga Food is a technology-driven, mobile-based platform that transforms how agricultural produce moves from farms to market. And here is how it works. So Twiga directly sources produce from small farmers, eliminating multiple layers of intermediaries. Then they use a sophisticated logistics network to deliver fresh produce to urban retailers, often within 24 hours. There are times when there are breaks here and there, but the general scope is 24 hours. You have a fresh produce delivered. And the revenue model was quite simple, but also, for example, the company might say purchase banana at 19 Kenyan shillings, then sell them at 34 Kenyan shillings per kilogram. This margin driven by efficiency and reduced waste supports operational cost and fuels growth, right? It's quite exciting, isn't it? So a clear-cut model where technology directly enhances profitability while empowering farmers and vendors. And that is the magic behind harnessing innovation to solve real-world problems. Because at the end of the day, when you think about it, one of the things you want to really focus on when you're building a system or when you're building a solution, specifically to solve problems for people, you want to ensure that all of the players within that ecosystem, the direct contributors, are actually benefiting. In this case, these are the smallholder farmers. And Twiga and the guys at Twiga, the co-founders, really understand how incredibly important these farmers are. So by buying from them, they are actually giving them a lot of opportunities, a lot of their scale as well, right? Because these farmers now have ready markets that they can sell through. So Twiga growth story is, because of the way they've actually moved over time. For example, in 2017, they did a Series A and they've raised about $10 million. That round was led by the International Finance Corporation, TLCom Capital, with competition from Wanda Capital, DOB Equity, and early injection of capital was critical for developing their innovation platform and establishing direct market linkages, right? Other subsequent rounds was a round that they did in November 2018, $10 million. And then in June 2019, they had a further $5 million invested. And in October, so it closes around about $23 million Series B. Again, I need to put a cap here. Naturally speaking, when companies go and raise big round, it is some sort of an indication, especially when you have a really popular investor on the cap table of that company. It is an indication of success, or at least product market fit. It doesn't necessarily guarantee 100% success. It actually means that investors can see clearly what is possible with that company and are willing to bet on it, right? So that's what this means. But these rounds from the early stages to later investment weren't just about building capital for Twiga. They were about building trust with investors who believe in Twiga's potential to transform Africa's agriculture. And there's, again, like I mentioned earlier on, it is crucial that when you're building as an entrepreneur, that especially if you're building a venture-backed company, what investors really look at is your ability to scale and your expertise to be able to do that. And you have to be able to represent that scale in a broader picture of, market expansion. And they did that very well. So you could see that they moved from Kenya and then expanded to Uganda, and their impact was very visible, right? So here's some breakdown. From launch in Nairobi in 2014, by 2017, they over vendors with 13,000 farmers. And by 2019, they grew that to 8,500 vendors and 17,000 farmers. And by 2023, they have expanded, or you could say reached over 140,000 customers across Kenya and Uganda, with daily deliveries of more than 12,000 customers. Mind-blowing. Completely mind-blowing. Let's revisit a few things, right? Quick expansion, thousands, like they doubled that rate, many over, and they were able to prove that by expanding to other. So you have to really think about that. You have to really be able to ask yourself when you're building a venture-backed company, is what I'm building, does it have the ability to expand rapidly to other countries? But there are also outliers. Maybe some that will do a business case on Money Point, who, by the way, became a unicorn by just operating in the Nigerian market. But it gives you an indication of how powerful and how intentional you have to be when you're building when you're building something amazing, when you're building and when you really understand the problem that you're solving, and when you have a clear vision on how to execute that problem. But also when you try to put people at the core of the problem that you're solving, it's just beyond what you can actually achieve. So Twiga is a representation of that. It's a representation of a deep understanding of supply chain mastery, but also a deep understanding of the customers and all of the players within the value chain, especially the farmers, and how to creatively impact them. That is their story. But then they've, like many other companies on the continent, they've gone through some serious challenges. So from economic pressure and of course market fluctuation, all of these combined was a big problem for the company, and it forces them to make a lot of tough decisions. So for example, around November 2022 coming up to 2023, Twiga transitioned its in-house sales team to an independent agent model, resulting in the layoff of almost 211 people, about 21% of their workforce. Then again in August 2023, they also faced more challenges and they laid off even more people. And then they consolidated operation by closing 10 depots in Nairobi and centralizing logistics at their warehouse in Tatu City. But to overcome all of these hurdles, Twiga invested heavily in data analytics, warehouse management systems, and even piloted blockchain initiative to boost supply chain transparency and efficiency. Does it sound familiar? It should. If you have watched the video that I did with Omni Retail, you realize that data is playing a significant part of supply chain management, and all of these found that, and so they're using that as a model to support their business and their revenue. So they remind us that sometimes tough decisions are necessary to steer the ship towards a sustainable future. It is a lesson for every entrepreneur. Resilience and adaptation are key to long-term success. So when Twiga got into their problems, operational costs were high and they had to cut back, they started thinking a lot more structurally about how to get even more revenue into the business. So what I like to say is start thinking about a suite of solutions to provide, or an ecosystem of solutions to provide to customer base, right? And this is why, of course, the blockchain that I just mentioned, the sales of data that I've just talked about, and warehouse management systems that I also mentioned earlier. But where is Twiga actually going with all of the problems that they face? And how are they really going to get to the levels that they want to get to? So, of course, they are still planning for deeper market penetration in Kenya, Uganda operations also, and also potentially other African markets. Twiga continues to build on its strong foundation. Continued investment in technology will further optimize operations, and it will enhance very drastically their transparency and reduces all type of inefficiencies, right? So as we've seen, Twiga Foods is more than just a business, really, if you think about it. It's a movement. Like I said, a lot of countries in the continent are thinking more creatively about how to feed and solve the value chain problem that exists within the agricultural sector. And players like Twiga Foods, entrepreneurs like Peter and his co-founder understand this, and they have put in a lot of effort into ensuring that we are building resilient company that can take on and solve the critical value chain within the agricultural, industrial agricultural space. So I thank you very much for joining me today as I have deep dive into Twiga Foods. I hope you've gained a valuable insight and inspiration for your venture in agricultural space. Stay curious, stay innovative, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, let me know what your thoughts are. Share your comments or share this, and let's meet here again.